Hello YouTube, and welcome to part 3 of web browsing. Now, one of the questions that I'm asked is, which web browser should I use? That tells me that there's a possibility that the person asking the question might have missed a more important question, which is, why should I be concerned about which web browser I should use? Now, that's actually a very interesting and I think important question. At the moment, we're lucky because there's a number of browsers out there. There's a fair choice. We've got an open market, and that's important. If any one web browser was to dominate, then they'd be in a position of power. Because when you think about it, your web browser is the man in the middle. It is between you and the rest of the internet. And it has abilities. Remember that I said in a previous video that the web browser gets the code and then uses that to render the page that you see? Well, it's possible for the web browser to alter the code before it renders it. And, well, luckily, nobody's really doing anything major because they don't have a monopoly. They know that people would pretty much skip browsers in a heartbeat. But this is being done to some extent already. I mean, there are some browsers, modules, plugins, which will quite happily alter that code. Some for positive, some for negative. Some will insert adverts into keywords. So even though the web page that you're looking at hasn't delivered you any adverts, they will put adverts into the stream. Words which aren't supposed to be highlighted will be highlighted automatically by the browser, and when you hover your mouse over them, a little advert will pop up. Add to taste. Whatever is your preference. Some people find that useful. I find it annoying, and I don't want my web browser to do that, thank you very much. But how dangerous is this? And how ready are companies to use that kind of technology? Well, actually, more ready than you think. I originally filmed this a couple of days ago, and I had an article that I read out of something that had happened just on that day. And this was download.com, which is the middleman in this case. People were downloading a piece of software from download.com, which was called Nmap. Now, the people who make Nmap hadn't put any adverts or anything in there, but I'll read you just one paragraph from this report. If you want to find it yourself, it's on a site called The Register, and it's from the 9th of December 2011. A row kicked off on Monday after it emerged that users who have downloaded Nmap, a popular network auditing and penetration testing tool, from download.com, found the Babylon toolbar included by default. Now, if you remember what I said in a previous video, I think it was number 2 on web browsing, toolbars are a way for other companies to keep their brand in front of your face when you're using your web browser, which a lot of us do on a very regular basis. And that a lot of these toolbars are, in my opinion, of questionable value. And I basically showed you how on Firefox to go to the view option and toolbars and then untick the toolbars that you don't want to see. But the important thing here was that download.com did it themselves. Nmap didn't want it. Nmap didn't include it. People didn't want it, but download.com did it. Don't know what their relationship is with the Babylon toolbar. I don't even know what the Babylon toolbar is or does, but the mere fact that it's a toolbar and it was inserted by a man in the middle and nobody really wanted it tells you all you need to know. So, when you consider which web browser you should use, I mean, statistics and metrics alter all the time. Which browser is the fastest in rendering? Which browser is the most secure? Which browser has the least amount of bugs in a certain area? Which browser uses most memory, has the most memory leaks, yada yada. Those statistics will jump around. What won't jump around so readily is the ethics of the company that's behind it. Microsoft attempted to get a stranglehold on the browser market because they made their web browser, Internet Explorer, a key part of the operating system and the way that the Windows operating system worked. Fortunately, in Europe, the European Commissions were having none of it, fined Microsoft heavily, and if you install one of the Windows operating systems in Europe, you should have a window of choice. I think there's 2 pages of 5 browsers, 10 browsers in total that you can choose from. So that betrays Microsoft's intentions in many people's eyes, my own included, that Microsoft have tried to get a stranglehold on the web browser market by including one with the installation, so people will be lazy and just use that rather than exercise their choice and find another browser that they like. Google and their Chrome browser. Well, Google started off with a mantra of do no evil, and over recent years that's been severely tested and called up to question by a number of people in a number of different spheres, because they are in a number of different areas. They are, at the end of the day, still a corporation and still need money. And there's a very interesting battle going on between Google having anti-advert technology, but on the other hand they're funded in the majority of cases by advertisers. Their move into the mobile phone hardware space by taking over Motorola might signal an end of such reliance, but who knows. Firefox is, although open source, it's pretty heavily funded by Google, I believe. Although I do believe that there are tensions because Firefox won't readily kowtow to Google where they think that there's principles at stake. As for Opera, I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. And there are many other browsers out there as well. Talk to people. The best thing is, if you've got a spare machine, try them. See the ones that you like, see the ones that you don't like, because there's different looks and feels. Like Google's Chrome has got a very minimalistic feel. Internet Explorer has done a bit of messing around lately with where the options are, and I find it difficult to find options that I want. Firefox has still, fortunately, stuck with the traditional look and feel and operation that I've known for more than a decade on the internet. So have a play with the browsers, see which ones you like using, and then do your research on the companies, see what people are saying about the companies, and that will hopefully give you an insight as to what they could do with your data. Because remember, whenever you visit a website and you put in your password and you tick that little remember this password box, it's the browser that remembers it. And which company's in charge of that browser again? Exactly. Now you're starting to get where I'm coming from. That browser has a lot of information about you. Your passwords, if you've asked it to keep them, where you've visited. It's got all sorts of autocomplete stuff as well. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility that that browser could be reporting back to base without your knowledge. Although in many cases there's a license that starts up when you install software. How many of us read that? It might be tucked down there in the bottom in the small print that you agree to the manufacturer of the browser having access to that information. So it can pay to read the licenses. So I believe that it's important that you consider which web browser that you use, not only from the functionality side and the security side and all the other metrics and statistics of which browser happens to be the best this week or next week, but also from the company behind it, their ethics. That's important, I believe. And I can only say that for the moment I'm using Firefox, but for my search I'm using Yahoo. And that's going to have to be rethought because Yahoo seems to be taken over by Microsoft. So it's Devil and Deep Blue Sea at the moment. We're working towards our search being either in the hands of Microsoft or Google. And not a lot of people seem to be wanting to turn away from Google for their search, really. Can't blame them. It's if I'm searching for something, even if I enter obscure, search words, what I think are obscure words, I typically get where I want to be on the first page or two. So you can't blame them for that. But I think it'll be an interesting day when somebody out-Googles Google, and Google, if they do build a monopoly, what they do with it. That'll be a very interesting thing to see indeed, because they're not completely open source. And I'll explain open source in another video. But with a bit of luck, you should now be asking yourself the wider question of why should I be concerned about which web browser I'm using, and hopefully widen your scope a little more than just the standard metrics. So until next time, you two, take care. Bye.